So this is the Heel to the Face podcast. I'm Jarad.
I'm Brandon.
And it is finally here after 6 long weeks since Elimination Chamber. It is WrestleMania Weekend. We are going to give you everything you know from day one, Thursday, when WrestleMania Weekend starts, all the way until, well, we will record next week. The things that can happen and the things that we think will happen as another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast starts right now.
Fans celebrate with me from Rome to Rochester.
Bad luck seems to be my middle name. They might as well tag me up with my buddies from Syracuse.
So our WrestleMania edition of the podcast is officially on the air. Brandon, myself, Jarad, make sure you are following the show at Heel to the Face. We've been posting a lot more on Twitter lately on Heel to the Face, and I plan on posting a lot more this upcoming weekend live from Dallas, from Arlington, from Fort Worth, from the whole Metroplex area, as they like to say. SmackDown on Friday night, WrestleMania this weekend, and then even the Raw after on Monday night. A lot of exciting things to get to, and this is the first WrestleMania since 2019 that we have essentially WrestleMania weekend back. We haven't obviously had it in a long time, but we were talking just before we get on, more than just WrestleMania to talk about, more than just the show.
Lots of stuff.
That's all we had the last 2 years was just WrestleMania.
Yeah, now we got just every main promotion's doing something this weekend.
Everybody's there, except for essentially AEW, but at the same time, everybody from AEW is going to be there.
So essentially, AEW's participating.
I was looking at the WrestleCon lineup. If there's a wrestler that you can think of, whether if they're in WWE, they're probably doing something with WWE, and if they're not in WWE, they're at WrestleCon signing autographs, meet and greet. Even some of the WWE guys, they're kind of like mixing because they're not under WWE contract. I'm saying like the Steiner brothers. Yeah. Apparently, they're going to be signing autographs and taking pictures with their Hall of Fame rings. On top of like the acolytes and, you know, obviously anybody else under the sun, from, you know, Jon Moxley to Bray Wyatt to Braun Strowman, they are all there. You know, we just like we talk about WrestleMania weekend. It actually starts tomorrow, which is, we're recording this March the 30th, March 31st, 11 a.m. local time. GCW's The Collective, which is 12 shows GCW will be putting on or have something to do with during this WrestleMania weekend. They're kicking things off at 11 a.m. on Thursday morning. And the first show you got somebody like Warhorse versus Josh Alexander. We know Josh Alexander, obviously, his current feud with the Moose. Who calls him the Moose? I called him the Moose.
I guess you
with
do.
Moose and Impact Wrestling. But on that, so that's how you're kicking things off at 11:30 in the morning. You know, I got Davey Richards, Josh Alexander, and a GCW show kicking things off the morning. And then later that day, you got Josh Barnett's Bloodsport. Jon Moxley's in action. Suzuki's in action. You got Speedball Mike Bailey is in action.
Tim Thatcher.
You got John Hennigan, obviously we know as, Johnny Nitro.
Marina Shafir.
And this is just a little bit later in the day. That's 4 o'clock. So by 5 o'clock on Thursday, you could have gone to 2 wrestling shows that are essentially wrestling.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking, you'll see Jon Moxley, you'll see John Hennigan, you'll have seen Davey Richards. I mean, this is just, like I said, by 4 o'clock, and I won't even have been in Dallas yet. I mean, that's just what WrestleMania weekend brings.
It's like a 5-day weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I'm making it a 4-day weekend, but, I've said this before, and this is, we've talked enough in length. I even posted a video, if you didn't see it, where it was a more in-depth kind of reason why WrestleMania shouldn't be 2 nights. I don't want it to be 2 nights because there's just so much to do. I want WrestleMania to be one big long day, and then the other days
WWE doesn't care about that.
They don't care. Like, we're looking at right now Joey Janela's Spring Break, which is Thursday night, which sees Jon Moxley in action for a second time in one day, defending his GCW World Championship. X-Pac versus Joey Janela. Mickie James versus Allie Katch. I mean, Nick Gage. I mean, that's a match right there. Thursday night. Look at that card you got there.
The Briscoes.
Yeah. Look, I mean, that's Thursday. Thursday night. You got the Briscoes and Nick Cage in a tag team match. I mean, there's other people involved, but those guys in the same ring at the same time.
That's cool.
X-Pac and Joey Janela, Mickie James, Jon Moxley. I mean,
that's a good lineup there.
Just go. Thursday is a good day to just sit and watch wrestling all day. That would actually be
solid.
The best day to me if I was going to go to non-WWE things, just for the sake of, like, there is really no WWE competition. The other days obviously have, WWE things going on as well. But Thursday is all that. But that's what we're talking about. WrestleMania weekend, you got Thursday, you got Friday. Every single day, you got stuff starting at like noon. I know there's a package on Fight TV. I think it's like $129. You can get all the shows if you want to watch them at home because everything is going to be streamed. But let's start with Friday to essentially break down WrestleMania weekend. We'll move to Friday. We got SmackDown and we got the Hall of Fame. And one thing that I think we got that I'm a little afraid of for the future, but I think it's something going forward, and that is this is the first SmackDown in which there'll be a crowd before WrestleMania. The first WrestleMania crowd at a SmackDown pre-WrestleMania, not post-WrestleMania. They've had them post before. But obviously, it was late 2019 SmackDown moved to Friday. And they obviously planned to have SmackDown in Tampa the last couple of years. Did not happen because of COVID and stuff. So they're having SmackDown followed by WrestleMania. And because obviously SmackDown is essentially the A show, the money that goes into SmackDown, it's the A show.
For sure.
That regardless of if WrestleMania is 2 nights or not, we're going to start seeing SmackDown, I guess, as the new WrestleMania pre-show. Pretty
much. I mean, the unfortunate part is you're putting the Hall of Fame on Peacock, which is really odd. Like, why not? I mean, if you're gonna have you're gonna hype up something so big as the Undertaker and the Steiner brothers, for example. Like, why are we doing this on Peacock? Why don't we just why not just make SmackDown the Hall of Fame? Yeah. I don't like what. I mean, what are we gonna gain? What are we gonna gain from Friday Night SmackDown this week? What are we gaining?
Well, we have the Intercontinental Championship match, Ricochet. And
what do we really think anything's going to happen there?
No, I don't think anything's going to happen because of his opponents.
It's predictable.
Is, Humberto Carrillo and his other tag partner there.
I know you're talking about.
Yeah,
like they're the Los Lotharios.
Yeah, so it's him versus Los Lotharios, which is again this is WWE, and we've said it before. We said it on shows before when everyone's like, here's what we should get at WrestleMania. Here's what we're going to get at WrestleMania. And I'm like, here's what you're going to get from WWE because this is what WWE does. People are like, Ricochet is going to be in an awesome ladder match for the IC belt. I imagine Finn Balor is going to be, here's what Finn Balor right now is doing. He's in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, which is on SmackDown. And then Ricochet is defending the IC belt on SmackDown as well against Los Lotharios. So that's what you're really going to get. People have all these pipe dreams about things that can happen. And believe me, I want to see the IC title in a ladder match kicking off WrestleMania.
Which we're going to get to WrestleMania in a little bit, like where I think we're going in certain situations versus where I think it should go versus where it's going. I don't want to set my hand too much. But unfortunately,
at least if WrestleMania was one night and then it was a shorter show. Then you could say, okay, I get the Andre the Giant Battle Royal being on SmackDown. It's essentially a pre-show. But with WrestleMania being 2 nights, I get that you got to provide content for Fox and for SmackDown, which makes it difficult because you have 2 things that are kind of going against each other. You have WrestleMania being a 6-hour show, essentially, because it's 2 nights, and you have to make tons of matches for that. And then you have SmackDown, which is like, hey, we need matches too. WrestleMania should just be 1 night. So then you don't have these issues, so that you might have some decent WrestleMania left-off matches on that edition of SmackDown. I would probably be even more apt to go to that SmackDown because you're going to have... I feel like the Andre the Giant Battle Royal being on SmackDown is a little more authentic if WrestleMania is just 1 night. You're like, okay, I get it. It's essentially the pre-show. But the fact that WrestleMania is 6 hours, 2 nights, that you're pushing things like to the Andre the Giant Battle Royal or people like Ricochet and Finn Balor to SmackDown only... make it a little more like, okay, then why are we doing 2 nights if we still can't get Finn Balor? If we still can't get Ricochet?
Yeah, that's what WWE's thinking is though. Like sometimes I feel like they can't get out of their own way. That's the issue. Like you have these talented individuals like you said, Finn Balor, Ricochet, and you're not doing anything with them really.
Yeah, they're in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal that's on SmackDown. And unfortunately, regardless, we're stuck with SmackDown having these kind of matches because SmackDown is like, hey, it's cool you're having WrestleMania, but we paid a lot of money for SmackDown, and we want you to not just take this week off. I mean, that could be in part why the Hall of Fame isn't on SmackDown. Maybe Fox is like, listen, we didn't pay for you to sit around and chit-chat and have people in suits. We want wrestling action on Friday night.
But I think people will be more apt to want to watch the Hall of Fame.
I feel like it would feel like a more special event.
Yeah.
I feel like it being the Hall of Fame would be a more... they
would get more ratings because number 1, it's Undertaker.
Yeah.
Number 2, it's not a go home blah, as I like to call, edition of SmackDown before the rest.
It's special. It really feels different. It feels when you turn on the TV that you are seeing something that really shows you at home that this isn't just another week of SmackDown. This isn't just a pre-taped, episodic show. This is a special edition of SmackDown. We are live in Dallas, Texas.
Yes.
And what's kind of crazy is actually years past SmackDown, when it was taped on Tuesdays and aired on Thursdays and Fridays, sometimes they wouldn't even tape it on Tuesdays, WrestleMania weekend. Like, they wouldn't even have the guy. They would go right from Raw onto WrestleMania weekend. And what they would do is they'd tape extra matches on Raw.
Yep.
And then they would have Michael Cole and Taz, I think they were the announcers at the time. They would have them live from Access as like the announcers, like sending it like a studio show. And then it'd be like, all right, when we get back from commercial, we've got some match we taped, essentially on Raw. And then they would come back and spend 20, 30 minutes like from Access, talking to wrestlers, looking around Access, checking things out, kind of giving you that special, like, we're not just in an arena today, we're live from WrestleMania. So they'd obviously still have a few matches strewn in there, but they didn't put on a whole SmackDown. Yeah. They just had a bunch of wasted matches because they're like, we got to put on a show. But the theme of the show is hyping up WrestleMania, being live at WrestleMania, having that kind of feel. And it will feel kind of cool being from Dallas for sure. But I mean, it is what you said, a go home SmackDown.
Yeah.
And if we stay on Friday night, I mean, it's a shame because this has nothing to do with money. A lot of times, you think if I was rich, if I was a multimillionaire, I'd be going and doing this. But this has nothing to do with money in the sense of you can't do everything at once, regardless.
Nope.
And we're looking at Friday night and 2 shows that I wish were essentially, at least one of them was on Saturday night so I could go to it, is Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor 15. That's Friday night. Ring of Honor's back after their hiatus. They're back with a vengeance because they got Tony Khan back and behind him. You've got Jonathan Grisham versus Bandito, champion versus champion. If we all remember, Bandito couldn't defend the belt at the last Ring of Honor show because he had COVID in December. So it's Jonathan Grisham versus Bandito. They've been doing a few things on the independent circle, keeping the title fresh, but now it's title versus title. And then you also have the Briscoes against FTR. They kind of teased this at the Ring of Honor show in December with FTR showing up at the Ring of Honor show. Yep. And now, obviously, with Tony Khan involved, there's no reason why this match can't happen. And then
that's a dream match, by the way.
That's Moriarty versus Jay Lethal. Jay Lethal, I think, is he against John Moxley tonight on Dynamite? I'm not sure, but he's on Dynamite tonight in a pretty high-profile match. He's in a singles match. And then you got, and I'm not a big fan of interim championships, but Ring of Honor's doing this. They did it with their December show when somebody was injured.
Yeah.
Why don't you just make a number 1 contender match? Why you got to put an interim title on things? But either way, Mercedes Martinez versus Willow Nightingale. But Mercedes Martinez, we obviously know, if you don't have to be an indie fan to know about her and to know what she can do.
Yeah, she's a very talented lady. I mean, that right there is a hell of a card.
What's crazy is, and this just shows to the extent of WrestleMania weekend, is that the Briscoes are not just in action on Friday night. We talked about how they're in action on Thursday. They're in action twice on Friday night. They go from Ring of Honor Supercard 15 to a show that I think starts about an hour later, which is Impact's Multiverse of Matches. Now, Impact is currently on the road for their next pay-per-view, which is April 23rd in Poughkeepsie, and they got Josh Alexander versus Moose for the championship. But before we get there, I think this card right here, this Multiverse of Matches, is a solid card, and I only hope that when we get to the pay-per-view, it's half of this. You got Ultimate X for the Impact X Division Championship, where you just have Blake Christian, who was added to it, Jordana Grace, obviously, who gives it that element that they're trying to do with the Ultimate X and the championship, where it's genderless, I guess. Rich Swann and Vincent. Vincent, we've seen him recently in that Ring of Honor invasion they've been doing on Impact. He's been one of those guys that's been part of the Ring of Honor Impact invasion. He's in this match. I saw him at the XPW show. He's like I would say a poor man's Bray Wyatt. I mean, we've talked about that before.
Yep.
But you got that. You got Deonna Purrazzo defending her Ring of Honor World Championship or her AAA World title. We don't even know yet. Whoever challenges her gets to face off against Deonna Purrazzo for one of her 2 championships. And AAA. Don't worry, they're in town as well.
Sure.
They've got shows going on all weekend long. But another match, I mean, there's obviously a lot of matches to look at, but I mean, Jay White versus Chris Saban. I mean, that's that's a match I would love to see live. That's
a hell of a
that would headline Ring of Honor. That could headline Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor. That could headline when Ring of Honor was doing that show with New Japan back in Madison Square Garden at WrestleMania 2019. I mean, Jay White versus Chris Saban. I mean, if you like wrestling, that's going to be a good match for you. The Briscoes versus the Good Brothers. If you like wrestling and you like a brawl and you like those guys, those personalities, the Briscoes, hopefully they don't leave too much with FTR and they can pick it up against the Good Brothers. I mean, talk about paydays too. I mean, you talk about how people can make money without being in WWE or even AEW. That's how you do it.
That's a double payday right there.
Yeah, that's how you make a living out of being a professional wrestler without being one of the major companies.
Yeah, I mean you're going to the pay window twice in one day. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and you're making decent money because you're a decent indie name.
I wouldn't even say decent. I would say an elite.
The top indie name.
I would say elite. So they're getting 2 elite paydays in one day. That's pretty damn good.
And then there's actually, I'm looking at this multiverse of matches and what is actually not even on this card, but there's actually a tag team match that involves Moose and Josh Alexander. They're not facing up against each other. They're both like teaming up. Moose and a tag partner versus Josh Alexander and a tag partner. So you have that. And then you have, this right here. This is awesome. NWA versus Impact match. 2 real life couples, Mickie James and Nick Aldis versus Chelsea Green and Matt Cardona. And just it reminds me a little of the John Cena, Nikki Bella versus The Miz. And that was a WrestleMania match.
Yep.
I mean, the best part about this is they're good wrestlers. I mean, Matt Cardona and Nick Aldis in the ring at the same time.
Yeah, they're quality. Yeah,
wrestlers. This isn't just, a generic. This isn't just, The Miz and John Cena doing their 5 moves of doom.
Mickie James and Chelsea Green are both, they're capable as well, obviously.
Yeah.
So. That's gonna be a solid match.
It's difficult for me because I'm going to neither of those shows. I'm going to the SmackDown and the Hall of Fame, but it just stinks, because you got to pick what you're doing. There's only so much, and I even think there's other shows that aren't as high quality going against those shows.
The only thing I would say, and this is me nitpicking a little bit, why wouldn't make it like a whole week type of thing where Ring of Honor has a show on Tuesday or something, and then Impact has it on Wednesday? Just throwing stuff out there, just so there's a show for everybody.
Well, I think when Ring of Honor probably booked it, it was probably prior to knowing Undertaker, because to be fair, Ring of Honor, if they booked it on Friday night, they don't want to. They're not going against WrestleMania, but they probably thought, hey, we'll go against SmackDown because those are kind of 2 different audiences. Yeah. You would have had me. I would have been there if it was. Again, this was a go home SmackDown with the Under the Giant Battle Royal. I'd have been a Ring of Honor.
Yeah, I mean it's a better show.
Yeah. And it's just a different show. You're going to get to see different things. I don't know how many times we need to see Roman Reigns tell us he's going to smash Brock Lesnar. We got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we've heard that a few times.
I would rather see guys who are putting on. See, what's nice about going to these other shows is you're getting everyone's WrestleMania. See, I'm going to SmackDown, which is a pre-show for WrestleMania, and Raw, which is a post-show for WrestleMania. But this Impact show or this Ring of Honor show is these guys' WrestleMania. So I'm not going to some just supplement show. I'm going to a show that stands on its own. These guys aren't warming up for WrestleMania. These guys aren't holding back because they're holding, the real motivation for this weekend. This is their WrestleMania. These guys are going to go 25, 30 minutes. They're going to bleed. They're going to get hurt. They're going to jump off ladders. They're going to do things because this is their WrestleMania. So you're going to shows like we move on to now NXT Stand and Deliver, where these guys are putting on the show as these are the only shows. So SmackDown, regardless, is going to feel like a pre-show. These shows are going to feel like a standalone, WrestleMania-esque event. They're not going to hold anything back when it comes to the pyro or the presentation or the guests they can bring in. But we move on to NXT Stand and Deliver, which is Saturday afternoon, which could be Saturday night. Again, this is another show. I'd rather go Saturday night to this show at the American Airlines Center or wherever it is, as a precursor to WrestleMania Sunday. But it's Saturday afternoon and possibly not going to it. I don't want to rule anything out entirely. But I think for NXT 2.0, they put together a pretty decent card.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite matches, I think, could be the match of this card is the Fatal 5-Way ladder match. I think that's going to be the match of the show, I think. I mean, you got Carmelo Hayes, you got Santos Escobar, Solo Sikoa, and then you got Grayson Waller and Cameron Grimes. I mean, that Fatal 5-Way ladder match for the North American Championship is going to be, I think that to me is going to be the best match.
I'm looking forward to LA Knight and Gunther, or Walter, as we still like to say.
Yeah, I mean, that's not going to be a bad match either. I mean, do they ever put on bad matches, those guys? I mean, Dolph Ziggler, Braun Breaker, that's going to be a quality match. I always like those Fatal 5-Way ladder matches, and all 5 competitors are, to me, they're they're top notch. I'm curious to see who comes out as the victor on that one. I mean, any one of those 5, I have no problem leaving the arena with the title.
They just added the Toxic Attraction versus Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai women's tag match. I believe that's going to be on the pre-show, so that's about 11:30 Texas time. If I can say what, if I do go to this show, this will be the earliest that I've attended a wrestling show in the daytime. I've never been at a wrestling show watching matches at 11:30 in the morning.
So go get brunch and then go to the show.
Yeah, or breakfast. Just go get breakfast.
There you go.
And go 11:30 in the morning. Toxic Attraction versus Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai.
It's not bad. I mean, it's not.
It's weird. It's weird because wrestling is normally an under the lights nighttime kind of thing. So it's weird.
So if WWE is putting that on the pre-show, is that kind of tipping your hand that it's not a title change? Because that's how I feel.
Why
would you have a title change on the pre-show?
I feel like this whole card is going to get treated pretty highly. It is their first time being in front of crowds or in front of a crowd that isn't the Performance Center or Full Sail University since NXT TakeOver Portland, which was February 2020. This is the first time since then that there will be a crowd that is not the traditional 500 people at the Performance Center watching NXT. So I imagine they'll treat the pre-show pretty well. I don't think they're going to treat... it's such a... Like NXT, even though I don't really like NXT 2.0 in comparison of NXT OG, when they put on a card and they put up 6 matches, there's not really any garbage here.
No, I think all 7 matches are pretty good.
Yeah, so it's the pre-show match. Really, you say like tip the hand that there won't be a title change, but really, what would you put on the pre-show?
I mean, honestly, there's no match here that I would put on the pre-show because I think they're all quality. Because I mean, honestly, you could put Toxic Attraction versus Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai. You can put that in the main card, and no one's going to say a thing.
If there's ever been a time that NXT though has to make sure that they don't go over, because we also talk about how they have pretty concise shows about 2.5 hours. This is a time where they're going to make sure to not go over in the sense of they know that people got to get from one place to another.
Yeah, so it's going to be. I think it'll be a tight show.
Yes, so I think it's going to be a tight show indeed, and hopefully, even if I do go, hopefully it is a tight show because it's not just so much getting from one to the other,
but you got to how far is the one venue to the other venue?
30 minutes. Because you're going from downtown Dallas to Arlington.
Okay, so you'll have to stop and grab a bite to eat somewhere on the way.
Yeah.
Or get something at the next venue.
Because WrestleMania is going to start at around 7 o'clock Central Time, a 5 o'clock pre-show. As of right now, for either night, there have been no matches announced for the pre-shows for WrestleMania. I kind of hope they stay that way. Also kind of wondering what could they, because, the matches that would be on the pre-show, I imagine they'd be on SmackDown.
No, maybe they'll throw in Ricochet and Finn Balor on the pre-show.
I guess, and that's the thing too, just because Finn Balor and Damian Priest, I thought that was building. I thought, of all these, I guess Ricochet wasn't doing much, but Finn Balor and Damian Priest, I thought that U.S. title match, I thought that was a sure thing for WrestleMania. I thought we were building right towards that.
Yeah, I thought so too.
But WWE...
Yeah, it's WWE doing what they do.
Yeah, people always say, we're going to get this. We'll talk about the Cody Rhodes thing in a minute. You talk about how that's a sure thing. Damian Priest and Finn Balor have legitimately been feuding, and that's not a sure thing. That's not happening. So you talk about the reading between the lines of Cody Rhodes. Like, no, Cody Rhodes could probably be in there and feuding with Seth Rollins, and it's not a sure thing until it's a sure thing.
Do you think they're just going to wait till the last minute to add Finn Balor and Damian Priest?
I mean, I don't know. So
that's a WrestleMania quality match.
We got 7 matches each night. And again, last year there was no pre-show matches. I don't know why they're making each night pre-show 2 hours long, essentially, if they're not having any matches. Right now there's no matches scheduled, so what's the point of a 2-hour pre-show? A 1-hour pre-show is too long if you got no matches.
Honestly, pre-shows for me should be 30 minutes or less.
30, I get it being 1 hour, it's WrestleMania, you want the hype, you want that Super Bowl pregame kind of thing.
You only need 30 minutes to really get your stuff in.
30 minutes or an hour, I would say, for sure. I mean, an hour at the most, because
you can't go
2
long.
hours is if you have matches.
I'm not gonna lie to
you. And
you.
if WrestleMania is one evening.
I'm not gonna watch 2 hours of pre-show.
I mean, technically this WrestleMania has 4 hours of pre-show.
Yeah, for the weekend, yeah.
Yes. And
I'll be honest with you, dude. Like, I'd rather see Finn Balor and Damian Priest instead of Drew McIntyre, Happy Corbin. That's just me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I would, and that's nothing against Drew McIntyre and Happy Corbin. I just think from a WrestleMania perspective, to me, Priest, Balor is a more WrestleMania quality match than this match.
So let me ask you this. Let's do this. I want you to give me WrestleMania's one night long. Take the card that we have. You can even take SmackDown stuff or whatever. No dream matches, just essentially what we've got. And give me one WrestleMania card. Give me one night. What would you take and make one card out of? Because essentially, this card looks pretty good if you can just break it down to 8 matches. We got 14.
Yeah.
If you make it 8 matches, I think it's a solid WrestleMania card. But unfortunately, because you got 2 nights to spill between, you got to make it 14 matches because you got to make it 6 hours. Now, 6 hours isn't a luxury. Now, hey, we got an abundance of talent. Let's just give them all matches. Now it's no, we've already booked it. If everyone gets hurt tomorrow on SmackDown or this week on SmackDown, or some of these matches don't happen, you still have to put on 6 hours of wrestling, and that's the bind you put yourself in. You put yourself in this bind because you book 6 hours of wrestling. Raw's 3 hours every week. There's no way that Raw can go 2 hours if we don't have enough for it, or we can go 4 hours. It's 3 hours. And that's what they've done with WrestleMania. They essentially said, we have to go 6 hours. They went 6 hours for sure, 6-7 hours for WrestleMania in New York City, WrestleMania 35. It was way too long. And, hopefully they learned from that and maybe said, maybe next year we don't need it as long, or maybe we keep it as long if we have the talent to do it. But if you don't have the matches built, if you don't have the storylines, don't force them. But unfortunately, they have to force them now. Now we have to have a bunch of tag team
Let me
matches.
Let me ask you this then. So, what are our rules here? I know we got night 1, night 2. If we had to combine it into one night, are we going to stick with the 7-match card?
No, you can make it like 8 matches.
Okay.
Because it'd be one night, so essentially it'd be a 4-hour show.
I'll give you a list, no order on how I want the main event to work. I Becky Lynch, Bianca, that's definitely going to be on no matter what.
Yeah.
I would say, and I might circle back. Seth Rollins versus whoever it is. Assuming it is who we think it is, which that's another thing. So there's 2. Charlotte Flair, Ronda Rousey, there's 3. And then let's see. You got to have the celebrity aspect of it. So I would put Pat McAfee, Austin Theory. So that'd be 4. And then Edge, AJ Styles, duh. I mean, Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, that's 6 for me. And then, how many celebrity matches do you need? I
think the Johnny Knoxville, Sami Zayn one's got a decent build, and it's a one-on-one match. It's not too muddled with too many people involved.
There's my 7. I'll just do one more just for argument's sake. I would say, I'd probably go with the triple threat tag match for the Raw tag.
See, I'm dropping most matches off of night 1, so I got to drop 6 matches essentially. So I'm going to drop the New Day and Sheamus versus Rich Holland.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I'm dropping that. That's the easiest thing to drop.
Yeah.
I'm dropping the Usos. I think they're one of the best tag teams out there. They're the tag team champs. They deserve to be on WrestleMania. But in this match against Shinsuke Nakamura and Rick Boogs, again, not really a feud that's been building up. This isn't FTR versus the Usos. This isn't New Day versus the Usos.
Yeah.
If it was New Day versus the Usos, there we go. But unfortunately, it's New Day versus Sheamus and Rich Holland, and the Usos versus Shinsuke and Rick Boogs. So both those tag matches can go.
Yeah, I agree.
So we're down to 12 matches.
Yep.
I think I don't want Rey Mysterio to not be involved, but and the Miz at the same time. But
that match you can throw away.
I could throw that match away. Throw them in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. Maybe throw all 4 of the people: Rey, the Miz, Logan Paul. Throw them all in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. That would actually make it decently interesting. And then so we're down to 11 matches. I got to get rid of 3 more. I'm gonna go.
You're still keeping Drew McIntyre, Happy Corbin?
No, I guess no. But you got to put Drew on the card. I think Drew has earned it.
Yeah, I like,
especially too with all the stuff he's gone through the pandemic.
You just said Ray. You said Ray deserves it too. So why don't you put him in the Battle Royal?
Here's I guess
that's my only argument, because I know you mentioned Ray and Drew. I put
Drew, Happy Corbin, Finn Balor, and Damian Priest in a 4-way for the U.S. title. That's how I'm doing that.
Yeah, a little fantasy booking.
Yeah, a little bit, but they're still all involved in a way. Unfortunately, I'm getting rid of, I love Pat McAfee, but I'm getting rid of Pat McAfee and Austin Theory.
Easy there.
Just
easy. You gotta have Pat McAfee on the show, man.
Because I'm just not that high on Austin Theory, I guess. I think he's doing great. I'm pretty high. I guess I'm not high in the sense of like that he really deserves to be on the WrestleMania card.
I think
people
he
like
does. He's a blue chip prospect, dude. He's one of those guys where I think he's a future multi-time champion. That's just in different levels. Intercontinental, U.S., world titles. I mean, Austin Theory for me is a guy you're going to come back 15 years from now and say, damn, that boy was pretty damn good. I'm just saying.
I think the quickest way, maybe not to break it down to 8, because 8 is kind of tough, just get rid of the women's tag match, get rid of the 2 tag matches on night number 1, and get rid of the Rey Mysterio, Logan Paul. So that's like 4 matches.
Yep.
So you're down to 10. So 8 matches on the main card, 2 on the pre-show, and that's a WrestleMania one-night card. And, even to think, 10 matches on the main card, it seems like a lot. But, the WrestleMania that went at New York City at MetLife Stadium a couple years ago, I think that was a 14-match main card.
Yeah, but here's the thing, dude. Like, if you
might even been a 16-match main card.
If you have 10 matches, if it's a 5-hour show, the average match length's 30 minutes.
Yeah, so you can have 10.
Yeah.
So you can have 10. Okay, but
that's not bad. I mean, you could probably do 12 in a 5-hour show. Realistically. Because if you can do realistically 2 to 3 matches an hour.
But, you're going to have a little bit else, involved. You're going to have your... Unfortunately, I don't understand. I feel like WWE used to be able to get good musical performances, and now they're kind of struggling with that. Like, I don't get why we can't have... This is the 3rd straight WrestleMania with The Weeknd having a song at WrestleMania, and I feel like, a lot of people hate musical performances. I like WrestleMania for the whole spectacle of it. I think it'd be great to have The Weeknd... I know the Grammys are on Sunday, so I guess he'd have to do it on Saturday. But I think it'd be great to have like The Weeknd do a musical performance. The last couple of years, they've kind of struggled with people. They had Joan Jett doing Ronda Rousey's entrance, which was cool.
Well, but, maybe they will have some live.
But I mean, I think The Weeknd's a big name where they'd want to advertise that. But we've fallen off from having the days of like Kid Rock and Limp Bizkit and Saliva and some decent names. Now we're getting more like indie rock, like the New Year's Day band who plays in front of 500 people here in Syracuse singing Rhea Ripley to the Ring last year.
You might see something like that. You might see, different artists doing the entrance.
That would be true. But I'm saying from like a musical, just like we did with Pitbull at WrestleMania 33, where they just had like they did the song live, Pitbull and the Flo Rida, that kind of thing. It'd be cool to just have like a little intermission where you got The Weeknd singing. He can sing all 3 WrestleMania songs essentially that he had because this is his 3rd straight year with this theme song being WrestleMania. So I feel like that would make it feel like a bigger deal to the outsiders of the world who think that this is the WrestleMania or the Super Bowl of wrestling. Well, the Super Bowl of Super Bowls gets the guy. That's the difference, I guess. The Super Bowl of Super Bowls gets The Weeknd easily. Not like, hey, he's the theme song, but we still can't get him. Like that kind of thing. So I would like to see someone like The Weeknd involved. But the WrestleMania card is what it is. I will say it's gonna be interesting because anybody who knows At&T Stadium or stadiums in general, they're tough to do 2 nights in a row. And I'm not saying from a crowd perspective, but just from a fan perspective.
Yeah.
It's a lot to go to a stadium 2 days in a row. This isn't just like going to the arena, getting some street parking. Going to a stadium, and this is why WrestleMania used to be cool being one day, is because it's a big event. But going to At&T Stadium, and essentially, I'm going to do my best to not pay $75 for parking. But, the huge parking lot.
Yeah, just walk a mile. It's fine.
I will. But
I've done it.
The massive property that is At&T Stadium, and now they got the Texas Live there with Globe Life Park and all the other stuff going on. It's an undertaking to do that 2 days in a row, to get in the car and drive out to a stadium 2 nights in a row. Obviously, last year, I mean, it was difficult, but not as bad with the only 25,000 per night at WrestleMania. But I will say one thing about the crowd, and people are expecting it's going to be a decent crowd. They've sold over 60,000 per night, which people are saying is great, and it is great. It's 120,000 total attendance.
For the weekend.
But it's not 120,000 people, because it's still only, 60,000 a night's better than 100. Not really, because of the fact that I bet you 40,000 of those 60,000 every night are return customers.
Yeah.
So, and the price, to be honest with you, while substantially, more money kind of, overall, I think not much more money. And I was looking at tickets and I realized that I paid more I was looking at comparable seats. I paid more for the seats that I had at WrestleMania 32 in Dallas last time around than I would to buy those seats separately now later on as we're getting closer to showtime. Because they're individually cheaper, you know what I mean? I think I paid like $300 when those seats are now going for like $110 a piece each night. Obviously, from WWE, they charge more. From WWE's perspective, they charge more. But I'm just saying on the StubHub market. And all I guess I would say about stadiums is just book a stadium. Like, it's great that you're getting 60,000 each night, and that's, still a huge crowd, and sure, most of it's return. But I guess I hearken to the days and where whatever the stadium they held, regardless of how big it was, whether it be Madison Square Garden or At&T Stadium, it was sold to capacity.
Yep.
And tickets were a little pricier because of the fact that it was sold to capacity.
Special event.
So if you're doing 2 nights, you should have done Globe Life Park, or you should have done, something where you're sold to capacity. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, sure, 80,000 at Texas Stadium is great. 80,000 at the Loud House in Michigan would be great, but you're sold to capacity. That's all I wish they could do. And, I kind of hope that we don't go back to the 2-night WrestleMania for the fact that I want to see venues going forward to be sold to capacity.
Well, speaking of, fans, attendance and everything, I got to ask you something here. How much of a boo or a letdown, I guess we'll say, would it be for you and also the other fans that are going to be at the event themselves?
Not much for me if you're getting what I'm getting at.
Seth Rollins has a match with somebody to be announced. Mr. McMahon says he's going to name the opponent the night of the event. So a lot of people are assuming, of course, you can't assume with WWE because that's...
we had a whole show on this, and it's been 2 weeks since then. And if anything, the waters have only been muddier.
Yeah, it's... From what I'm gathering, Shane McMahon versus Seth Rollins? Like, that's what you're going with? Like, what?
Well, first,
Why?
before we get to that, I just want to re-harken back to the last episode, just the last episode we had, when I said potential Seth Rollins opponents. And I said to this guy, how much do we know about Brock Lesnar's injury? How much do we know that he's not involved? And you said he won't be involved. And boy, things change quickly.
That's why they did
He's
a quick
on
build.
the card. And, I knew before I even saw him on the card, because they do all these countdown videos for, WrestleMania, how many days. And I noticed that Bobby Lashley was still on them. And if we know WWE, they're very, particular. When Ric Flair was on the outs, they removed his picture from the background of the open. So when, Bobby Lashley was essentially on the side of At&T Stadium before he showed up on Raw this past week, I knew that he was on this card and he was not as injured because they would have pulled him. They're pretty smart when it comes to that stuff. There's a reason why Bayley is not in any of the WrestleMania stuff because she's not currently part of the show.
Yeah, she's not ready yet.
But going back to the Cody Rhodes, we had a whole video on it, and I feel like a few of you who watched the video didn't watch the full video because there was still things underneath comments and questions that said, like, what are you guys talking about? They've already announced it. Like, no, they haven't. That's why we made the video, because they haven't. And here we are. All of a sudden, it's March. We got this March Madness feel going on where it's Selection Sunday, and you think that resume for Cody Rhodes is solid, but as we get closer, as we're sitting on the bubble, and you're going, maybe we're a little more on the bubble than we thought we were, and the seat's getting a little hot here, wondering if it's going to be Cody Rhodes, because you got things like Shane McMahon rumored to be involved, and we sent out a Twitter poll earlier today. I sent out, do you want to see Shane O'Mac in a match? And not heavily majority, but 57% says no, they do not want to see Shane O'Mac in a match.
Yep.
And but here's the thing. Shane O'Mac, outside of the pandemic WrestleMania, has been involved in WrestleMania going back all the way to WrestleMania 32. He's been at every single one.
Yep.
So you know that they like to pull him out for Mania. He's another Undertaker, if you will. So, there's no reason why I guess Vince McMahon wouldn't want to pull him out. And he does have obviously pretty good involvement with Vince McMahon. If Vince McMahon's going to pull somebody out to face Seth Rollins, why not be the son? And it would be quite, you want to talk about heat. You want to talk about that nuclear heat for a heel because everyone is thinking Cody Rhodes. I mean, I could see it happening.
I hope not.
But I
hope not. I mean, let's be honest. You're supposed to make WrestleMania a big time night, or night 1 and night 2. You're supposed to make it a big thing, and you're gonna put Shane McMahon in there. Not Cody Rhodes. Like that doesn't make sense to me.
Well, here's the thing, because I have since this whole time not been sold on Cody Rhodes coming in until maybe after the Raw after WrestleMania, just because I've watched enough WWE. This isn't about what I want. This isn't about what I'd like to see. This is about just me following WWE and kind of reading between the lines here. And so many people, I guess, have not, of all the things in the world, so many people have been sold. Obviously, we ran a poll a couple days ago. I'm looking at it now, and it actually has gone down because I feel like a few people are getting a little weary. This was 80% people thought it was going to be Cody Rhodes facing Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. Now it's gone down to 76% because, again, I feel like some people are probably like, you know what? Feeling a little tepid. Like I made that video. There was a reason I made that video 2 weeks ago because I saw the writing on the walls then. I said, hey, this isn't a sure thing. This resume for this team going into March Madness isn't a sure thing. Don't be surprised if they're left not dancing. And here we are, a couple days before WrestleMania, and all of a sudden I'm not alone. People are jumping on the team here going, yeah, that's a possibility.
I'll tell you this right now. I think the whole Shane McMahon thing's a smokescreen. So I'm going to be on the opposite end of that. I think Cody Rhodes will be Seth Rollins' opponent. That's if you're going to make WrestleMania a big thing, why not bring Cody Rhodes in at WrestleMania?
Well, here's one name that gets forgot. Here's one thing that gets forgot about. And that is another guy that seems to, for some reason, not be talked about to be involved in WrestleMania. He even had to be involved in WrestleMania last time in Dallas, despite the fact that he was going through an injury and not on the card. But did we forget about John Cena? Did we forget about this is WrestleMania?
He's not doing it.
I know
John Cena, and it's not a big deal because everybody's known for a long time about his filming schedule. He's not. There's.
But we knew about his filming schedule last, and this is why I'm saying.
But he's not
last
coming.
year.
You can shut that down. He's not coming.
Well, last year he said he wanted to be a part of WrestleMania, even during the quote-unquote pandemic WrestleMania in Tampa.
Schedule won't work.
And he said that his schedule didn't work. He was stuck in the country filming a movie, stuck in Canada filming a movie, so he physically couldn't come. But he still was like, people were like, are you going to be involved in this WrestleMania? And that was still like only a tepid WrestleMania. This is a full-time WrestleMania. Now we're back to no travel restrictions. So I guess my saying is, if he wanted to be involved, like he was literally saying he was thinking about finding ways to break quarantine to be involved in WrestleMania, despite the fact that he didn't have a WrestleMania storyline.
His schedule might be way different than it is this time around.
Might be.
I don't think he's going to be there.
Might be.
I'll just put it here, and I could be wrong. I don't see John Cena at WrestleMania. I don't see it at all. I don't. If anything, maybe he shows up. Maybe he shows up the Monday Night Raw afterwards.
I mean, yeah, I feel like he would be on WrestleMania before he'd be on the Monday Night Raw because I don't see him building a storyline.
It's predictable.
But he's just another big name that could pull out. Obviously, it's WrestleMania. He's pretty close. This isn't like pulling out some other crazy celebrity. This isn't even like pulling out The Rock. I mean, John Cena's a lot closer to WWE world. You know what I mean? We obviously saw him last year at SummerSlam, main eventing against Roman Reigns. So his ties to WWE are not so far as maybe like a Rock or somebody else. I feel like he's a little bit closer to that.
I don't see it. I really don't.
I mean, maybe it doesn't happen. I'm just throwing out other possibilities because, again, this isn't just me thinking that because of the Shane McMahon news that it might not be Cody Rhodes. This is me thinking WWE might not be bringing out Cody Rhodes.
That Shane McMahon stuff's a smokescreen. That's what it is. It's to get people to be have doubt about Cody Rhodes. It's all it is a smokescreen. If you can't see the smokescreen for a lot of people,
you're right. We're not going to get Shane McMahon. We're going to get Elias.
If we get Elias, that's just ridiculous too. I'm just saying, it's to me, I feel like WWE is putting this whole Shane McMahon narrative out there for a smokescreen. That's what I think it is. I don't see in any way, shape, or form that Cody Rhodes is not on WrestleMania this year. And here's the thing. Higher up, WWE officials came out, and it's been, leaked out to the public where Cody Rhodes owns everything. His music, his attire, his everything. Why not show off what he looked like in AEW on WrestleMania, the grandest stage of them all?
Because WWE likes to do the thing where they don't acknowledge because that's acknowledging
that's not
AEW.
Acknowledging anything. That's not acknowledging anything. You don't have to acknowledge anything. You can just say, "Yep, Cody Rhodes." Cody Rhodes, the American Dream son. That's all. You just hype it up where you're talking about the dream. That's what you're talking about.
I mean, we will see. WrestleMania.
Yes, it would be kind of an ultimate kind of nudge at AEW, but that's not what WWE's going for. They're just bringing the whole package over because of what Cody Rhodes is, and he's a very prominent figure in the wrestling business.
So that'll be a part of night one. And I want to just say this too, and I've said this before. This is another WWE kind of lingo, but there is there's going to be night one of WrestleMania, night two of WrestleMania, but it's one event. And we talk about obviously the Stone Cold KO thing, main eventing that has been talked about. And KO said it this past week on Raw that it's going to essentially main event night one. But unfortunately, listen, to guys out there who only have tickets for one night of WrestleMania and you can only attend one show, I apologize. I'm sorry, but it is one event. There is one main event, And night one just eventually goes to an intermission, essentially a 21-hour intermission with the segment. So this whole, Bianca and Sasha Banks main evented WrestleMania, you can say they did, but they didn't really. Roman Reigns, Edge, and Daniel Bryan main evented WrestleMania. There's a reason why. Listen, if WrestleManias were treated like people think they are, where there's a night one and night two and they both have main events and they're both equal, then Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, it wouldn't matter if they are finishing out Sunday or finishing out Saturday. There's a reason why Roman Reigns' match finished out Sunday last year, and there's a reason why Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar are finishing out Sunday this year. Because according to WWE, that is the main event. If you could have main events, then yeah, you'd finish out Sunday with KO and Stone Cold and have Brock Lesnar and Roman on night one. What would it make a difference? They know it makes a difference. They know night one isn't a main event. So yes, I understand that they sold 2 different tickets and maybe you can't go to both nights and you can only go half. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that to me, if you're going to night 2 of WrestleMania or you're only watching night 2, that essentially you're picking up WrestleMania in the middle, or if you're only going to night 1, you're leaving halfway through. I don't know your schedule, your work schedule. You can't go to both. I apologize. I would never. I'm going to WrestleMania 2 nights. It's not even a consideration because it's one event. It's not. I understand that you got to go twice, but it is what it is. It's not even like
you're going to go to both shows. It's not.
Yeah, there's a reason why Ring of Honor, Supercard, and all these others aren't going against either night. They understand that WrestleMania is an entire event and that they can't go against any part of WrestleMania. So WWE lingo out there saying this is the main event of night 1, this is the main event of night 2. No. It's just one singular event. There's one main event. It's Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. That's what's on your billboards. That's what's on your T-shirt. That's going to be on the cover of your program, and that's going to be on your souvenir cups. That's your WrestleMania main event. So that's why I don't really care that KO and Stone Cold are finishing out night 1. I think it'll be an entertaining way to finish out night 1, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it'll be like a long intermission before night 2.
And it'll be a cool way to finish out night number 1 without having just, a traditional match. Something cool. Obviously, I imagine I'll be leaving the arena while Stone Cold's music is playing. I mean, that just seems like a foregone, right? That, the glass shattering music as everyone leaves in night 1. It's a good way to go to essentially an intermission. But let's start to break down. And we've talked a lot about some of the buildup. Obviously, there's a lot of rushed matches in here. Bobby Lashley and Omos. I think that could be awesome. And that could have had an awesome build. Could have had the Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar build, but thrown together at the last minute. So I guess what are some matches you're really looking forward to? Things you could think that could steal the show, and or some champions you think are leaving WrestleMania.
I mean, obviously AJ Styles and Edge. That's an obvious one. You also got Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, another obvious choice. Honestly, I don't think it'll be the match of the night, but I think a match is going to surprise people in how good it was. Pat McAfee and Austin Theory. I think that's going to surprise people more than you think. And then, I would also say Seth Rollins, assuming he wrestles Cody Rhodes. There you go. I'm assuming it's Cody Rhodes.
When it comes to new champions, I'll say I think Bianca Belair is going to leave with the new championship.
So who's going to be the unified champ then?
That is a tough one because I
think it's Brock. I don't think it's Brock Lesnar. I think it.
You think it's Roman?
Yeah, Roman's been a longer champion. Why not keep that mystique of him being the longest reigning champion?
I guess the issue that you just have is that, if Brock Lesnar doesn't win, Brock Lesnar's going to go away for a little bit.
Which is fine. He doesn't.
But
that's fine.
I guess the issue you have is that obviously Brock has been chasing Roman for a while. So you have to kill that. Because that's over with now. And
why not kill it at SummerSlam?
Unfortunately, because the issue with the way they've been keeping it going is the idea that he hasn't actually gotten a hold of them. Meaning either the Usos were in the way one time or Roman wasn't involved at day one because he had COVID, I believe.
I think you keep the title on Roman.
Yeah, no, I think keeping the title on Roman is awesome. I just wonder where you go from here because Brock Lesnar essentially, he doesn't just let things die. And essentially this feud is going to die.
Or it could be, it could be the fact maybe Brock gets beat up real bad and he gets written off TV for a while. Mm-hmm. That's you can't tell me that's not a possibility where he gets beat up, so bad storyline wise.
Because Brock is better than Goldberg in the sense that Goldberg does this stuff where he loses and then for some reason he comes back 6 months later and jumps the line and is like the new number one contender, despite the fact, like I said, he'll lose to Drew McIntyre or whoever he fought, at WrestleMania 36 for the belt. And then he'll come back like a year later and be like, you're next. Like, hey, you lost. Get to the back of the line.
Yeah, like
he'll lose
else.
to Bobby Lashley, and then be like, bam, I'm back. Who's next? You know,
Yeah, that's the annoying part about Goldberg, honestly.
Brock Lesnar, I think, is better than that. Brock Lesnar doesn't like lose and then going to come back and be like, Roman, I'm going to smash you at SummerSlam, despite the fact that he just lost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, he's got that more credibility. Brock Lesnar has more of that credibility, I would say. So it is tough. But yeah, I kind of would like to see Roman win. It would be crazy to see anybody, a champion, win a reigning champion defend at 2 consecutive WrestleManias. I mean, these are things that don't happen.
Why not
in the modern era?
I think it'd be cool. I think it'd be cool because you don't see it. I mean, I don't think he's going to.
You don't even see it defend at 1. I didn't think Roman Reigns was going to leave Tampa last year with the belt.
I don't think it's going to get to Bruno Sammartino's length, but I would like to see him champion for a couple years. That's just me. I want to see like this mystique where he comes into your town and like. Anytime he's in a title match, it's like, oh, I might be seeing something that, hasn't happened in X amount of days, You know what
would be like the worst thing that could happen to all of this, and it's happened before, is if he does do some sort of crazy lengthy reign and then he gets hurt and has to like relinquish the belt.
Oh,
that'd be like
awful.
a horrible, like he's the champion for like 3 years and then has to like have surgery. So he's got to relinquish the belt and we have to have a new champion. You're like, that would stink, you know what I mean? If he loses,
it wouldn't be a good payout.
Because if he ever makes it to like 2 years, because he's almost to 2 years now. If he ever makes it to, like a full solid 2 years, you want to see that match in which he loses. You don't want him to just, give it up.
Yeah, I mean that'd be a not a good payoff. That wouldn't be good. But I think having him as even a longer term champion, I think is good for the business because you don't see it anymore. I think it's just the mystique of having somebody as champion as long as Roman is and can be. I think that holds its weight up against anything really these days. I mean, Roman Reigns right now, I mean, he's the best in the business right now, and that's no question. I doesn't matter what show you're into, AEW, Ring of Honor.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt Roman Reigns
he's on a different level than everybody else. And people are going to look back, 10, 15 years from now. Hopefully we'll be still doing the podcast. We're going to be like, damn, that was a good frickin' time. He was pretty frickin' good.
Yeah, no, and it's crazy to think that there would ever be a time where I'd be rooting. I mean, we've all been there. I remember Roman Reigns getting booed out of At&T Stadium when he won the championship against Triple H many years ago. Because people knew it was going to happen, but they still didn't want to see it happening. And here he is, leaving At&T Stadium. And one thing, and another thing, add to like the 2-night thing and how there's only one main event is the fact that stuff like AJ Styles and Edge. Here's the thing. Like, let's say, for example, you get tickets to the NCAA Final Four, which is this weekend. When you buy tickets, you're getting the semifinals or you're getting the championship. And that's what makes those two separate events, essentially, because you know what you're buying. With WWE, and which shows you that if you buy night 1 or night 2, that it's still one single event, and WWE doesn't really care what you're getting. Essentially, they're booking it as one event. Is when you buy tickets, you're just buying arbitrary tickets. You're just buying Saturday, which means nothing. You're buying Sunday, which Sunday, I guess you're getting the main event, but Saturday, you're just getting an arbitrary portion. And part of that is AJ Styles and Edge has been flip-flopping back and forth between Saturday and Sunday. You know what I mean? Like when you buy tickets to the Final Four, there's 2 sessions. The Final Four and then the championship. But you don't randomly get one. If you buy one ticket, you're not like, okay, we're going to give you the semifinals. We're going to give you the champion. No, you know what you're getting. So with WWE to say like, the fans out there to say these are 2 separate events. There's night 1. No, WWE is not booking it as 2 separate events because if you were, then they would have to advertise what you're getting. They book it as one event and then you just get what you get. Like they just put it together. And I understand they do somewhat to kind of spread things out. But like the Edge AJ Styles thing shows you like, how could you buy tickets for one night? You don't even, like that alone. You think you're getting AJ Styles and Edge, then you're not. Then you think you are, then you're not. Like it's now on Sunday. But just the idea there alone of like, if you're going, I just don't.
Go to both.
And I guess the only people I can think that would maybe not be able to are kids who essentially are like telling their parents who aren't wrestling fans, hey, wrestling's in town and I want to go. And they're like, okay, we can go one night because they don't know the difference. You know what I mean? They don't know it's a singular event and they don't care either way. So they're probably saying their kids can go one night only for your birthday, but that's it. But as for a fan that's traveling, that's over the age of 18 years old, yes, you just go to both events. As we move on to the Raw after, any predictions for Monday Night Raw? Mine, I'm going to pick Bayley. That's
mine too.
Yeah,
that's mine too. I think Bayley's an obvious choice. I mean, she's not going to be booked obviously on WrestleMania, so I think Bayley's the easy choice for Monday Night Raw.
You got any others? I mean, maybe Asuka as well. That's a possibility.
I mean, Elias.
I mean, we already know one thing that they ruined is that Veer. I mean, Veer is going to be a part. He's coming. And that's a ruin for me because of the fact that was part of the gimmick and the story of building him up and not knowing when he's coming to Raw. They keep saying he's coming to Raw, and then they finally said he's coming to Raw the night after WrestleMania. And it's like, why would you ruin that? The fact that he's actually been on Main Event and other things, but just not a part of Raw. Like, it's not like he's disappeared. He's there, and people see him wrestle. If you go to these live shows and dark matches, he's just not part of Monday Night Raw. So that's kind of like an ongoing story, and then they ruined it by revealing that he's going to be on Monday Night Raw. So you have that. But yeah, I say Oscar or Bailey or both. Or if it's not Shane McMahon, if it's not Cody Rhodes on Saturday, that's my pick for Monday night. Any other singular guys out there that I can't really think of offhand?
No, nothing I can think of either.
I mean, anybody coming over for AEW? There's been the talks lately. AEW has been having to release talents because of budget reasons, just like everybody else. So anybody else that maybe you could see coming over?
Not names. I mean, they're not going to bring Marco Stunt, I'll be honest. I don't think he fits the WWE mold. So I don't see that happening.
No, yeah. I can't think of, but I guess the good news is if I think of anything between now and Monday, obviously I'll be posting videos all weekend long at WrestleMania and I will bring it up. But also, if I don't, then that's part of the surprise in it as well.
Sure.
I mean, that's part of the reason. WrestleMania, the Raw after WrestleMania, as you can see, they put WrestleMania on everything. Now it's not even just Raw after WrestleMania like we know it. Like the WrestleMania logo is going to be on Raw as the Raw after, as we saw this past week, the WrestleMania Raw, WrestleMania SmackDown. I think that's a little tiresome. I'm not a big fan of that, kind of cheapening the brand. But either way, this upcoming weekend, I'll be in Dallas posting videos. I'm going to try to do something every single day. Actually, one of the days I plan to go up to Oklahoma, the world's biggest casino. Not in Las Vegas, not in Atlantic City, but in Oklahoma. And I plan to go visit that. It's weird. I went to Dallas last time for WrestleMania and visited a casino in Oklahoma and had no idea that like down the road like was the world's biggest. And because I wasn't thinking about it, it just was a random little late night trip up to a casino. And then I find this out that this world's biggest one is like right down the street. So I'm going to try to hit that up as well. But should be a fun weekend in Dallas. Lots of wrestling. Going to the Superstore, which now you have to pay to go to. It's called Superstore Access, which is essentially $10 to pay to go to the store and to see one or two exhibits. Instead of paying $50 to go to Access and go to the store for free, you pay $10 and you get half-assed to both. I guess that's the best way to put it.
There you go.
So pay $10 admission to go to a store. That's essentially what you got to do.
That's WWE for you.
But anything else I see, whether it be at Access or WrestleMania, on the way there, post-WrestleMania, I'll be posting. And obviously next week we'll be posting and recapping all of this from our very long video or very long week, an hour-long edition of the show, because it's WrestleMania. This is like our sixth, let's see, 17, 18, 19, 20. This is our sixth WrestleMania show here.
Yeah.
I had to count them up
crazy.
like that.
Yeah.
But for Brandon, I am Jarad. Enjoy WrestleMania weekend, and we will talk to you next week.